Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today, we diving deep into the life and mind of one of the 20th century's most formidable thinkers, Friedrich August von Hayek, his journey through war, economic chaos, and intellectual battles forged a powerful defense of individual liberty and the free market that continues to shape our world. Hayek's early career set the stage for his lifelong intellectual project. In 1927, alongside his mentor Ludwig von Mises, he co-founded the Austrian Institute for Business Cycle Research. It was here that he began to crystallize a core idea that economic crises, or business cycles, weren't random acts of fate. Instead, he argued they were the predictable result of central banks manipulating interest rates. Imagine the economy as a complex orchestra. The interest rate is the conductor's baton, signaling to businesses when to invest and build. Hayek theorized that when a central bank artificially lowers interest rates, it's like the conductor giving a false signal. Businesses start projects they can't sustain, leading to a malinvestment boom. This boom is built on a shaky foundation and inevitably leads to a bust, a recession, as reality sets in. This perspective put him on a collision course with the most famous economist of his time, John Maynard Keynes. The intellectual showdown between Hayek and Keynes in the 1930s was more than just an academic squabble. It was a battle over the very soul of economics. When Keynes published his treatise on money, Hayek penned a sharp critique. Keynes was focused on the big picture, what we call aggregate demand. He believed that if people weren't spending enough, the government should step in and spend for them to kickstart the economy. Hayek saw this as dangerously simplistic. For him, the problem wasn't a lack of spending, but a misallocation of resources. Pumping money into the system, he argued, only masked the underlying distortions and postponed the necessary, painful adjustments, risking an even bigger crisis down the road. He emphasized the importance of relative prices and the intricate structure of production. This wasn't just about how much money was flowing, but where it was flowing and why. The debate revealed a fundamental difference in philosophy. Keynes had faith in the ability of smart experts and governments to manage an economy. Hayek was deeply skeptical. He believed that the knowledge needed to run an economy was not concentrated in a few brilliant minds, but was scattered dispersed among millions of individuals, each with their own unique insights and circumstances. Central planning, he warned, was doomed to fail because no planner could ever possess this vast, tacit knowledge. This idea became even clearer during the socialist calculation debate. Thinkers like Oskar Lange argued that a socialist state could mimic the market with a central planning board setting prices. Hayek countered that this was impossible. Prices in a competitive market aren't just arbitrary numbers. They're signals, packets of information about scarcity and demand that emerge spontaneously from countless individual transactions. A planner trying to replicate this process would be like trying to write a novel by randomly typing letters. They could never capture the meaning and complexity that emerges naturally. Of course, Hayek had his critics. They argued that his theories were too abstract and that he seemed to ignore the very real human suffering caused by unemployment during a recession. But his relentless focus on the limits of knowledge and the complexity of economic systems was ahead of its time, foreshadowing ideas that would later appear in fields like systems theory and behavioral economics. Hayek's intellectual firepower wasn't confined to economics. He was a true polymath, making groundbreaking contributions to political theory, law, and even psychology. At the heart of his entire worldview were two interconnected concepts: the knowledge problem, which we just discussed, and the idea of spontaneous order. What is spontaneous order? Think about language. No single person invented English. It evolved over centuries through the interactions of millions of people, developing complex rules of grammar and a rich vocabulary without any central committee directing it. That's a spontaneous order. Hayek argued that a healthy society and a prosperous economy work the same way. They are the result of human action, but not of human design. Order emerges from the bottom up, not imposed from the top down. His major works trace the development of this powerful idea against the backdrop of world-shaking events, His 1931 book, Prices and Production, established him as a leading critic of Keynesian ideas just as the Great Depression was taking hold. Then, during the darkness of World War II, he published his most famous work, The Road to Serfdom. Written in 1944, it was a passionate, urgent warning. Hayek saw that the fight against totalitarianism wasn't just being waged on the battlefield. He argued that the economic planning adopted by wartime governments, even with the best intentions, was setting Western democracies on a dangerous path. By concentrating economic power in the hands of the state, he warned, we inevitably erode individual freedom and create the conditions for authoritarian rule. The road to serfdom, he claimed, was paved with good intentions.
After the war, Hayek continued to build his case.
In his 1945 essay, The Use of Knowledge in Society, he brilliantly articulated how the price system acts as a vast, decentralized communication network, transmitting information more efficiently than any planner ever could. Later, massive volumes, like the Constitution of Liberty and Law, Legislation and Liberty, explored the legal and institutional frameworks like the rule of law and limited government that are necessary to protect freedom and allow a spontaneous order to flourish. His final book, The Fatal Conceit, was a capstone argument against what he saw as the arrogant belief that we can consciously design society and the economy from a blueprint. For decades, Hayek's ideas were largely outside the mainstream. But as the post-war consensus on big government and managed economies began to crumble under the weight of inflation and stagnation in the 1970s, the world started listening. Two political leaders, in particular, became champions of Hayekian thought, fundamentally reshaping their nations. In Britain, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher was a devoted reader of the Constitution of Liberty, facing crippling stagflation and powerful unions. Her government launched a radical program of reform, privatizing state-owned industries, deregulating markets, and curbing the power of organized labor. The goal was to break the cycle of inflation and reinvigorate the British economy by unleashing market forces. These policies were transformative, but also deeply controversial, leading to both renewed economic dynamism and significant social upheaval. Across the Atlantic, U.S. President Ronald Reagan echoed many of the same themes. Reaganomics, a blend of tax cuts, deregulation, and a strong anti-inflationary stance, was a direct application of Hayek's core principles of free enterprise and limited government, while other economists like Milton Friedman were also influential.
The intellectual DNA of the Reagan Revolution traced directly back to Hayek's critique of central planning
and his powerful defense of the individual. The influence didn't stop there. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, Hayek's writings provided a roadmap for many former Soviet bloc countries struggling to transition from communism to free markets. His ideas on law and institutions became crucial in guiding liberalization and reform efforts around the globe. Through these real-world applications, Friedrich Hayek was transformed from a lonely intellectual dissenter into the architect of a global economic revolution. His work reminds us that ideas, even when unpopular, can have profound and lasting consequences. Thank you so much for joining us on this intellectual journey. If you found this exploration of Hayek's ideas valuable, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive. We'll see you in the next video.